shopping trolley rather than at the ballot box? That's been the question of food activists who've been urging us to buy organic, fair trade or locally produced food.
But a report in this week's Economist magazine says ethical shopping actually does very little to help the planet.
First, it says buying locally might harm the environment if sheds have to be heated to grow things like tomatoes, and it might be better to transport goods from further away.
On organic produce, the report says that this way of farming produces lower yields, so uses more energy to produce the same amount of food.
And it says fair trade agreements might harm other farmers not in the agreement, and also increases the supply of products like coffee when farmers really need to diversify.
Well, let's discuss this now with Kendra Okonski, who's an economist at the think tank, the International Policy Network. And joining us from Edinburgh is the investigative food journalist Joanna Blythman. A very good morning to you both. Kendra, so there's no point in buying either local or organic or fair trade. We might as well just buy intensive food from our big national supermarkets.
I think consumers today have an amazing amount of choice. And that is due to very complex production chains, lots of different decisions being made by people all over the world, and it's very difficult for the average consumer to understand how their food is produced. So these movements, local food movements or organic or fair trade, are trying to increase their market share by capitalizing on that lack of knowledge.
Well, no, actually, surely what they'd say is they're actually trying to get you to buy better, more ethically produced food.
And if it's ethical food, then we need to do, ethical means we're doing it for the right reasons. So we're helping the environment or we're helping the poor. But on all these counts, there seem to be many dubious claims made about these things. So, for instance, with organic agriculture, it excludes synthetic pesticides, for instance. And so that means no-till agriculture, which is probably one of the best ways to help make food production more sustainable in terms of soil loss, is excluded from that. So if you have this kind of contradiction in production methods, then the consumer isn't going to know exactly what.
So,
what
Joanna, the challenge is basically that doing all these things might make us feel better, but actually it doesn't do a whole lot of good.
Well, I don't think anyone ever said that, you know, you change the world through your shopping basket, and certainly organic or fair trade people would never say that. It's not a substitute for voting, for taking political action, for campaigning. It's not a substitute for trade unions, obviously not. But I think there are lots of people who are very alienated from the political process, who feel that whatever they want to happen, it doesn't happen, and they care about social justice, they care about the environment, they care about farm animals and so on, and they want to do what they can do in their personal lives to make things better, or at least not add to the problem. And I think it's quite interesting, this sort of critique we're now getting from The Economist and that kind of narrow economic view of things, because for ages they've really been patronising about ethical shopping. It's just going to go away, it's just a fad. And now that it clearly isn't, they really feel they have to sink the boot in, and they're actually terribly badly informed. I mean, Kendra has just made a really silly statement about organic agriculture, which is that, you know, it can't help, it makes things worse.
Okay, Jo,
you know, she doesn't understand organic agriculture.
If we did use organic agriculture to produce the world's food supply, we would make the trade-off that we would plow over many, many areas that are now wild, forested, biodiverse land. Since 1950, if we would have frozen agricultural methods, so we went back to using all those methods from 1950 and having no technological advance, we would plow over an area the size of South America to produce the world's food production.
Kendra, I don't know where you get this from.
These are statistics from the Food and Agriculture Organization.
Yeah, no, Kendra, I've just come back from India, and I've been speaking to farmers there who are growing tea, and until about 1940 they didn't use any pesticides or chemicals at all. For 50 years basically they've been using them, and now what's happened is that the soil is exhausted. There are shocking problems with soil erosion. There are toxic chemicals building up in the soil which are coming through in the tea, and what's happening now is that those farmers are going back to the non-chemical approach, and they're getting great results.
Okay,
the environment's coming back.
Let's Kendra have another word.
I think that we have to remember that before 1940, millions of people died in famines in India. Because modern agricultural methods are used, many more people are alive today. And so what we need to understand as consumers here is that But this is a very complex sort of decision making, and I'm not against consumer choice. I think if consumers want to buy local
Briefly,
food
please.
or organic, they should. But don't be under the misguided
you
impression
don't really.
that it's better for the
Joanna, I'm
environment.
very sorry, we have to leave it there. We are completely out of time. Joanna Blythman and Kendra, thank you both